Right, hello everyone. This is, for those of you who couldn't make it to the 100 Years of Community Cinema exhibition here in Sheffield. Hello, that's me in the reflection there. I'm Dr. Matt Rawle-Jones, and this is an exhibition that I've kind of co-curated it with Cinema for All, who used to be the British Federation of Film Societies, and they are celebrating their 100th anniversary, well, the 100th anniversary of community cinema this year. So it's 100 years since the Film Society in London showed its first film this year. The Federation of Film Societies itself was around since about 1946, I believe they federated formally. So they're not quite 100 years, but they're getting there. But yeah, it's the 100th anniversary of community film screenings in the UK. And so this is an exhibition drawn from the archives of Cinema for All, which used to be, of course, the British Federation, which I've spent the last 2-3 years now cataloguing and getting into proper archival shape and storing properly and so on. So Cinema for All and I have kind of put together this exhibition of materials at the Bloc Projects in Sheffield. So let me start out actually with some lovely stuff. Hand-painted signs from, I think that's from the Stroud Film Society. The Stroud Film Society were excellent. They produced all sorts of marvellous hand-produced materials. I'll show you a few of those as we go, but they really let their artistic side loose. And so we've got quite a lot of real treasures from them, actually. Here, there will be at kind of above head height some posters that have been collected over the years, circulated through the British Federation and then sent out to the film societies. Down here, though, this Bullet Boy poster from 2004 is hand-painted, again produced by Stroud, and is kind of their own kind of handmade advertising for the material. So when I say they kind of engage creatively with what they do, that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. The other materials around here are prints from a group in Birmingham that were celebrating a film festival from a few years ago, the Blue Moon Film Festival. And so they produce their own advertising too, which is just marvellous. This is the team from Cinema for All. I promised I won't film them for long, so we'll move on.
We're tired today. But...
yeah, the big show is tomorrow, I suppose, which they've got their gala celebrations of the Film Society of the Year and assorted awards thereabouts, which is happening tomorrow. Some of the postcards that we've got out to celebrate the 100th. Then, if I take you through here, this is the main exhibition room. So we've separated out into 3 different spaces, and I think you can see them all there. On the right hand side, we've got community cinema is people. On the left hand side, community cinema is connection. And then up front, community cinema is films. Now, that's because we wanted to highlight kind of the different elements that go into making the National Community Cinema Film Society operation work. It's a network of, over the years, many thousands. There's almost 1,000 groups running right now in the country. So what makes that work is firstly the people who put in the work to do it. Then secondly, the connections between those people, between the groups and, at a national level, and then internationally too, to the International Federation of Film Societies, of which the BFFS, the British Federation of Film Societies, was a founding member. And then, of course, the films, which is why any of this happens at all, really. The film that you'll see on the background here is a reel that was recorded with a lovely lady called Marjorie from the Manchester and Salford Film Society, who was 101, maybe 102, when she died a couple of weeks ago. But she has been around in the community cinema movement really since the 1940s. Perhaps someone once told me she stretched back to the 1930s in her membership of film societies. So yes, if you see a lady up on the screen, that's Marjorie, and we love her and miss her very much. It's lovely to be able to give her pride of place in the exhibition. I think she'd have been very proud of that. There she is, Marjorie Ainsworth, President of Manchester and Salford Film Society, recorded a few years ago before she died. 1939, goodness. I won't record the whole thing, but we can absolutely make that short film available on the Cinema for a website, I think, in the months ahead. Marjorie talks about the ways in which a lifelong love of film societies was born out of that first visit in 1939, and about how she now, I say now, I mean until recently, was going back to her film society up in Manchester and Salford and seeing new young people come in, and how proud that made her of the longevity of the movement. Anyway, I'll move on to the archival materials themselves now. So as I say, up top we've got some of the posters, so Sid and Nancy, all about my mother, Singing in the Rain, original Singing in the Rain quad poster there, which takes us back. Then I'll just do these all together, I suppose. Up here is Hitchcock's Rope, lovely picture of Hitchcock's Rope there, and Jurassic Park, which was one of the most popular films screened at film societies. And you'll notice here that there's a sticker saying that it's been passed as a PG in the UK. The reason for that is the poster was sent out to film societies before the film was classified. So film societies received the posters without an age limit on, and so they had to then send out stickers to update them with. On to the other materials then. So this is, again, just a really lovely thing from the Stroud Film Society. Place your name on the membership list for the next session. So this is the sort of thing that will be displayed in film societies. I believe this is from the 70s, this particular one. But just the sort of thing that will be displayed to help people through, but now become kind of artifacts of the modes of behaviour, the conduct, the operation of these societies. So the way that they kind of, the way that people interacted with them once arriving on site. So you would see signs like this at some societies to kind of guide you through those processes of the film society. Here for staying in touch, joining the membership list, and then a little bit of information about next season down at the bottom. So clearly kind of calling forward to keep people engaged. These are viewing sessions programs from 1958, from April 1958, then from autumn 1969, and then that's the autumn viewing sessions and the annual general meeting from 1988. So these were where the Federation would screen films for Film Society organisers so that they could choose the films that they wanted to show to their society in the next season. So it's kind of a preview opportunity, I suppose. In the archive, which is where all of these materials have come from, in the archive we have viewing sessions programmes going back a few years before this one, I think, into the kind of mid-50s. And then right the way through to the present, actually. They still do this on a periodical basis now, even though it's much less necessary thanks to digital technology. Over here, this is a bevy of treats. So these are Film Society programmes. So, for instance, Spring 95 at the, I believe this one is Sheffield, Film Unit, which is the Sheffield University Film Society from 1995. Aberystwyth, of course, Southport, the Edinburgh Film Guild. These are from all different times and places, the 70s there. This one, which I think is particularly lovely, 1959, again, Stroud. They come up a lot because they very generously donated a second tranche of materials to the archive, so we have quite a lot of their materials. If anyone knows of any more that they would like to be looked after safe and sound with us, then we are always accepting donations. But I will drop the plug now. What do we have down here? We have the Trinity Academy. We've got Moreland's House Film Society here, which is in Leek, Staffordshire. The Reels on Wheels, which was an itinerant cinema, a mobile cinema. More of these from all over the place, from Wales, from, this one is Leek again, it looks like, in Cheadle High School. Sorry, Reels on Wheels, it's the same group there. Solihull too. A few more over here. Again, kind of all sorts of dates, all sorts of times. Torbay, that's down my way now. Warwick University, of course, these student film societies had a big presence in the network. So yeah, just really, really lovely items that display the breadth of programming. One thing that we can do with these, and that I'm hoping to do in the years ahead, is of course, as we gradually, funding dependent, digitise and make available these materials, we'll be able to pull out from them the programming data, so we can look at how films circulated through different groups at different times, what was shown most and so on. This is a different type of material. This is film. Film, and actually this is film number 1 from October 1954. Film was I suppose kind of the magazine of the Film Society movement, produced by the British Federation from 1954 right the way through until the early 2000s, largely on a monthly basis, but sometimes it went bi-monthly, and once or twice it stopped for a few years before starting up again. What's wonderful about film, this one here from 1955, so 1 year later, costing 1 shilling, which for those of us born after the change of currency, that always tickles me. But these film magazines, yes, they contain information about what's going on in the world of film, so interviews with filmmakers and so forth. Films for the next season here, so what's coming up, but also news of film societies, so what the film societies are doing each month, what the highlights have been from the network. Here a story on, is there a film society crisis? I mean, there was always a film society crisis. Part of the story of film societies is perpetual crisis, from technological change through to funding crises and so forth, but always surviving. This one here is kind of typical of the 60s design. The kind of film magazine changed design as time went by. You can see here this one, number 40, so we're back in the 50s here. But the design of those then moved over to this kind of 1960s, 70s design. So this one here is the summer of 1969. 1971, things go a bit brown, I suppose, in the design. But this kind of new design for it then is replaced in the 90s by this design. And then when it's reborn in the 2000s, this is 2003, takes on a glossier, kind of, I suppose, more modern design, although I'm sure all of these were thought of as modern at the time. But yes, Film Magazine was a way of keeping the network of community cinemas in touch with one another and updated on what was going on. Over here, we have some extracts from the tapes catalogue. Up top is try and get that as best as I can, a newsreel, Camelot Films in 1952. We also have a series of tapes which were recorded either as interviews for Film Magazine or by groups themselves, by community cinemas or film societies, at their own events, where they recorded them and then sent the films to the Federation of Film Societies, who operated a lending library. So you could borrow these recordings to play at your film society. Here we've got Richard Attenborough, recorded at the Canton Film Appreciation Group in June of 1975. There's the actual tape itself, Richard Attenborough, Canton Film Appreciation Group. There are all sorts of treasures in here, some really kind of wonderful recordings that have been made available and lent out to groups across the country. Down here, little glass slide, if I can get the reflections right, which advertises the Federation's tape library to the groups. A few more of the tapes and the cards here. And a couple more down at the bottom on, as I say, all sorts of different formats. These, unfortunately, we haven't had the funding to digitise yet, but once we get some funds in for that, we will do, and we will hope that they have survived, that the materials on them have survived, as well as the physical objects having survived. We don't yet know how many of these recordings actually work, how many of them will play, but it's very much priority to find that out. Then I will work my way over here. We have a section of more modern materials that look at the booking scheme through which film societies can book films from Now Cinema for All, and the equipment hire scheme too, where there are hubs across the country that you can hire equipment from to ship out, and support for the Student Film Society movement too, which is really important. I'll bring you over to the middle here, where we have a range of items. These shouldn't be on display. Sorry, these are some of my files. We've been changing over some materials today to refresh the exhibition. These were materials on school film societies, so the Bath School Film Society. These items tell the story of the time when the Federation stopped representing school societies and the ruckus that caused. But we swapped those out. I'll show you what we swapped them out for later. This is the Roebuck Cup, the Charles Roebuck Cup, which is awarded annually for the individual contribution to the Film Society movement. This is being retired this year. Oh gosh, my reflection was a bit weird in there. This is being retired this year and sent to the archive because it's full. There's no room for any more names on the cup. You'll see on the back the names of all the various winners from across the years are engraved. Some familiar names in there too. But yes, it's full now, so it's been retired and replaced with the new cup in the next year, which is super exciting. Down here, these are Stroud materials again. This is a toolbox. Actually, no, I won't tilt the camera around. Sorry if that made anyone dizzy. A toolbox from Stroud, which contains the repair materials. Of course, you know, in the days before digital projection, people had to manage their own projectors, and so they needed to know how to repair their projector, how to get it working again if it broke down. So this was the toolbox that was kept by Stroud Film Society, containing all the materials they needed to repair a projector or other equipment that they used. It speaks to the legacy of skills that these groups shared across the country, the way that they educated and informed and trained people. It was a craft. It still is a craft. Both in the programming actually and in repair and so forth, but all sorts of skills that we wouldn't necessarily think of being circulated by film societies, and yet here we are. Someone had to learn to repair for this. Next up, some glass slides that have advertised all sorts of films. Again, these are Stroud materials. As I said, they gave us some really lovely stuff. Shall we dance? There's also some that were custom made for individual kind of groups. So these, again, Stroud, your next show will be, our next meeting will be the AGM. And this one that I particularly love, please wait until the film credits before leaving your seat. There's another one in here, I don't know if I'll be able to find it terribly rapidly, that asks people, have you locked your car? Which I thought was very thoughtful, actually, of them to have produced a whole slide for that. But again, you can see in these the craftsmanship, the skill that goes into this. Next season, what film do you want to see? All suggestions welcome. So these have been produced by hand. You can see a few more here. Then, moving over to this wall, we've got the Certificate of Incorporation of the Federation of Film Societies from 27th September 1978. So this is when the Federation formally incorporated after having operated under different legal terms before then, since, as I say, 1946. The Department of Trade licence, a duplicate of it that allowed the operation of the Federation. Again, 1978 here, so there was kind of a formalising of the group in 1978. A 5-year development plan, so this is the 90s that this was produced in, and the contents of that development plan, again showing the kind of infrastructure of the Federation, that this doesn't happen by accident, that it requires a quite complex, actually, behind the scenes construction of a network, a body of people and a body of knowledge, as well as a body of documents and processes that need to be followed in order to make the Federation operate across all these years. This is one of my favourite boards. I've just finished a journal article on some of these materials. These are the international film societies that were either operating in the UK or were operating elsewhere and federated to the UK's British Federation of Film Societies. So here the Australian Film Society, which was run out of Australia House. It actually still operates as the London Australian Film Society, but it operated out of Australia House, which was the home of the Australian High Commission in the UK, effectively the Australian Embassy, run by a chap who owned the Australian bookshop, James Hunt, who is a really interesting figure actually. He was given an award by the Queen for contribution to Australian culture in the UK. More in my article if you're interested. Then, actually I'll move over this way first because another Australian Film Society document. This is a visit report produced by the Federation of Film Societies, then under the auspices of the BFI. The BFI and the BFFS had an interesting, and continue to have an interesting relationship. More on that in the book I publish on it soon, fingers crossed. So 1988, they visited, the BFFS visited the Australian Film Society and kind of rated them. What did they have, what didn't they have? And made kind of comments about how comfortable the seats were. They were also very impressed with the Australian wine that was served. That's on I think the backside of that document. Here we've got, now my pronunciation is going to be dreadful, Filmsfelgehid, who knows? But this is a film society on the Faroe Islands that joined the British Federation of Film Societies in the 90s, in 93, when the Faroe Islands were going through an economic catastrophe, really. The fishing industry collapsed, which basically tanked the economy of the islands for a while. And so the shipping to the islands decreased in volume. And so the films that had been shipped from Denmark to the Faroe Islands suddenly stopped coming. So they joined the British Federation instead. And they were able to ship because of geographic proximity and more established shipping lanes between Scotland and the Faroe Islands. Fascinating little story, but yeah, all encapsulated in these documents. This is the Film Society run out of the American Embassy, or what was the American Embassy, at 24 Grosvenor Square in London. The American Embassy set up a film society through its ARC, the American Embassy Recreational, and I forget what club, the American Embassy Recreational Club. They set up a film society in the 90s and used the Federation of Film Societies as a means of accessing what they wanted to screen, which they said in the documents around this, was European films. They wanted to screen what they called interesting films, and then clarified that that meant films not from America. So that was a particularly interesting way of thinking about it. Down here, we've got a letter that is sent, well, a few of these were sent back and forth between the British Federation of Film Societies, the British Council, and Warsaw, where the British Council's Film Society in Warsaw was established just 3 years after the collapse of the Berlin Wall. So clearly a British soft power effort here, being played out through a national body, the British Council, organising film societies to be set up abroad. And then finally on the international ones, the Cine Club of Calcutta from 1961. This document describes the need for a Cine Club of Calcutta, which was then set up actually in 61 by a group of people, including a professor at one of the universities in Calcutta, or what was Calcutta at the time, I suppose. And yes, the aim was to provide a mature filmmaking and film appreciation group, because there was a sense in Calcutta at the time, according to this letter, that such a thing didn't exist. They joined the Federation, it seems, partly because they could get films that hadn't been edited by the Indian censor into the country that way. So rather than kind of figuring out means of dodging the laws, they used a loophole in the law that said that if you were getting a film shipped in through a film society network, then you didn't have to pass it through the censors. And so they got uncut copies of films that the Indian censor didn't want them to see. Queer Film Festival poster. This is much more modern, 2020, from Birmingham, just to show the diversity that there now is in the film society movement. What's often thought of as a kind of middle class, Middle England or rural pastime, I suppose, or hobby, or however one wants to frame it, is now actually a much more diverse and much more urban phenomenon as well. Though Lewes still has its film club, which is quite lovely too, junior film club there. And here are some curious little adverts for how films have been advertised. Here an advert for E.T. changing the sign here to E.T. flying off in his bicycle, and here a public footloose rather than a public footpath. So some of the creative modern ways in which film societies are now operating and advertising. So photographs of the Film Society of the Year Awards, which is an award given out each year by the Federation and now by Cinema for All. Tomorrow actually is the gala evening that we're going to go and celebrate the achievements of the Film Society community this year. This right here is the Engham Prize, which is the prize for the Film Society of the Year. That's been being given out for 3 decades, I believe now, maybe more than that. I think it was the 1980s they started giving that out, though I'll have to check with Jack. Actually, I'm having a half memory that said 1970 something. Let me check. Jack, when did you start giving out the Engham Prize? Do you remember?
I think 1983.
83, wonderful. I was, I was kind of vamping for the best, but yeah, I couldn't remember. So yeah, 1983, Jack was saying, which this is a year older than I am then, the Film Society of the Year Award, and there I am dating this off. The Film Society book, which is a handbook produced semi-regularly by the BFFS to inform people of how to run their own film societies and of what the movement stood for. Some more pictures from the awards. I believe this is one of the inaugural awards. I don't know which award that is, though. I'd have to check with Jack again. Pictures of award ceremonies, of the people involved, of a previous exhibition by one of the film societies. I can't make out on there which film society this is. I believe it's Warwick, if my memory serves me right. I believe it was Warwick. Yeah, photos of people doing their thing, at the awards dues, putting on exhibitions, hosting events, the kind of social side of community cinema, which is so much of what the movement cherishes about what it does. I think these are lovely. I think it's really special to be able to see people going about the business of film societies, of kind of the annual rhythm of it all, of what they did, of how they operated. One thing that we're going to do once we get all this material digitised, again funding dependent, is to use a crowdsourcing tool so that you can identify anyone you know in the images that are held here. These are the Ray Harryhausen materials, lovely. So you'd be able to identify anyone you see in any of these images from the photographic archive that you know. And kind of fill in that history that, at the moment, some of these we know who they are, some of them we don't. This is lovely. This is Germany, Deutschland. So this must be a meeting of the International Federation of Film Societies, which, as I said, the British Federation was a founding member of. Then, some information on the Warwick Student Cinema. These are really kind of about the work, the infrastructure again that makes the network operate. So this kind of informational brochure, the sort of thing that is produced with, the names of who the president is, who the secretary is, all the work that goes into making a film society happen. Application for the Film Society of the Year Awards from the Warwick Student Cinema, again showing kind of just the work that goes into applying for an award, let alone actually the work that makes the programme that sits behind that happen. The Chorley Empire Community Cinema applying for the Community Award in 2011 there. An award winner's sticker from 2015. Again, kind of, just showing the diversity and the range of groups that apply for this. And the skills, the analytical skills here. This is audience appreciation scores. So, each of the films along the bottom, you can see in kind of the different colours, the number who liked them and didn't. So red is excellent or very good, blue is average or poor, and I suppose the cream colour in the middle must be don't know, with attendance figures in brackets. So that record keeping and analysis, all that work that goes into making film societies happen. Down here, this is a projectionist's manual. This was produced by the British Federation of Film Societies to help train people. So just as I was talking about with the toolkit over there, over here, this is the opposite side of it, the training in projection. Again, those skills that people built up through their association with the Film Society movement. This is a rather lovely application for Film Society of the Year Awards 2011 from the Chatteris Community Cinema, did I say? CD-ROMs in there, so you can have a look at the materials that they produced, all sorts of kind of lovely sample materials too. We're putting that out so people can actually have a flick through it here at the exhibition. People are welcome to hold up the glass slides too and have a look at some of the other materials that we put out firsthand. This is one of the financial ledgers. I believe this is from the 80s. So showing again the record keeping, the documentation, the work that was put in and is still put in to make the Film Society movement operate. Some more photographs here of venues. So these are the types of places that community cinemas and film societies met. The Shaftesbury Arts Centre Film Society there. Shaftesbury Arts Centre Film Society. Woking's New Film Club, or New Cinema Club, sorry, there. The Curzon in the West End, one of the groups must have met there. Harrogate Film Society putting on a display. Some really lovely materials here. And then that is the exhibition. That's the celebration of 100 years of community cinema that Cinema for All and I have put on as a way of celebrating. As I say, tomorrow we have the gala event and the awards ceremony for this year. But I think what this gives a sense of is that tomorrow's award ceremony is just part of a really, really rich history that takes us all the way back 100 years to 1925. So happy birthday, community cinema, I suppose.